Howdy, y'all. I have to say that, I embrace that I'm sort of mechanically challenged. I'm good on computers. I'm patting myself in the back. I'm fairly smart, but when it comes to anything mechanical, I'm a train wreck. And I realize that, so I don't even change my oil on my car. I take it to the shop. I do all the, and I'm not going to go but it gets to the point where today the refrigerator in my place, it needed the water filter changed. And I've never changed it. It's a newer refrigerator.
Right.
So
it's not that hard.
I know where the filter is, and I'm figuring, okay, it's either twist left or twist right and pull out. I twist left, it won't move. I twist right, it won't move. I try pulling. I'm looking for a button, a release button, nothing. I can't get the friggin' water filter out of the refrigerator. This is what I mean. Now somebody else will come in, like the handyman that my landlord will bring in. He'll come in, he'll find the button, and it drives me crazy how things like this I just can't put things together like that.
All you got to do is, you know what? Anytime you get stuck like that, go to YouTube. There's a YouTube video. There's some guy out there that has already made that video to help you with that.
How did anyone fix something 15 years ago without
It's new, but I'm not a guy who can fix a lot of stuff. But I'll tell you what.
But Russ,
I fixed a dryer going to YouTube. I mean, you can fix a lot of stuff.
I fixed a dryer doing YouTube. I fixed a washing machine. I fixed a few water.
And I did that. I went to YouTube. I typed.
Oh my God.
I typed the model number, the type of refrigerator it was, and of course the refrigerator the guy was removing the filter on had a button right next to the thing that mine doesn't have.
Buy the one that had the button right next to the thing, Mike.
I didn't buy it. It's my landlord.
There's a word for this kind of situation, Mike. When you've gone to YouTube and you've looked at the internet and you can't figure it out, it's called PEBCAK. PEBCAK. Problem exists between chair and keyboard.
So how did you Mike? So is it resolved?
No.
You're drinking poison water now.
Well, not poisoned water, but it's
you're already in Buffalo. That's one strike against you, and now your filter's dirty.
Great, yeah, and the ice maker won't work because the filter is clogged or something. I mean, it's a and I can't. Believe me, I can't drink even if it's 10 degrees outside. Or excuse me, that's minus 10 or minus 12 to you, Peter. Yeah. I can't drink a drink without ice in my glass.
See, we don't even have ice at all at my house. I'm not even an ice guy. It doesn't matter.
Oh my God, how can you? Anyway,
because everything just stays chilled. There's a thing called a refrigerator. It works.
It's not cold enough.
My wife has a ranking of the different types of cubes that she prefers. That's how into ice we are.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like crushed. I like cubed. But
I get it. If you're Winnipeg, you're into ice. Ice is all around you. It's like real estate.
You know what Winnipeg is, Russ? Do you not know this? The Winnipeg is the Slurpee capital of the world.
I did not know
Slurpee cities with like 10 times their population.
I'm doing a show. What's up?
Hello. Was our conversation that boring?
No, it's like when your mother's bothering you, that's what you do.
Oh, I just hit unavailable on my phone.
Yeah, I just saw her and they're 80-something years old. Like, what if,
Yeah, no, but...
love you, Mom.
Yeah, love you too. But, no, like, when I was a kid, I would put a bottle of Coke, and this is always dangerous, putting a bottle or a can of soda or pop in the freezer. Because at a certain point, it's going to explode. You have to time it. And there's been a couple times where I forgot it was in there, and it did. But
just put it outside, Mike. You live in Buffalo.
It's the summer. It's the summer. It's not 10 degrees outside in the summer.
No, I know. But in the summer, it's 30. I get it.
So I want a bottle of Coke, and I don't want it. I don't want it just cold. I want it where it's starting.
You want it like slushy, almost frozen over.
No, not the whole thing. The top. As the top starts to freeze, there's that cap of ice.
Why do you want an iceberg in your drink? Why?
Because it's good. It's good. Anyway, all right. Enough.
You're gonna lose all the sensitivity in your tongue someday.
Russ, how long have you known me? I have no sensitivity at all.
Well, that's true.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, December 14th, 2017.
Hi, I'm Peter Tessy from Winnipeg, where we currently have a free and open internet in Canada.
Well, we haven't voted on it yet, and I'm Russ.
It just came down today, Russ.
Yep.
Oh, a couple hours ago it wasn't. Okay.
They voted.
So who knows what we can even afford to do this when they jack up the cost on Hangouts. But anyways, make your introduction.
No, I'm done. I'm really pissed off now. Thanks.
Sorry.
All right.
Didn't you say your name?
Nah, I don't even care now.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here at HockeyBuzz.com. Don't get so nervous. All we're doing is going back to the pre-Obama net neutrality and not the 2 years. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to make any difference.
It's going to make a difference. You'll see.
All right, whatever. I got big money, so I can pay for anything.
Right.
Okay, just to start off, the news from yesterday that really attracted my attention because I'm attracted to train wrecks, and the train wreck is the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun reported that there is no for sale sign on the Ottawa Senators. In an interview with Eugene Melnyk, Melnyk basically let.
Okay, because I'm doing a show now. I got to.
Hold on.
I'll throw out the key. Well, the key worked.
Mute him.
I just did.
So Eugene Melnyk.
Eugene Melnyk told Bruce Garriock in an email on Wednesday, we've muted you, Russ, so you have to unmute yourself, that no, I am not selling the team, period. My kids have first call on the franchise a long time ago. So basically, he's not selling. That's what he called to the carpet whoever the reporter was that said that there is a group out there, and there is a group out there that is apparently involved in the building of the new potential building of the new arena in downtown Ottawa. But Melnyk is very adamant in saying that he is not selling the team in spite of the various reports, and also got into the situation with the Carlson request. He didn't expound on it too much, but he basically said, all the players were asked for it, so he was included, and also touched on the Kyle Turris. Actually, Pierre Dorian touched on it and said that he was the one making the decisions. And the funny thing was that Kyle Turris's wife on Twitter responded with LOL. So according to Turris, it's basically Melnyk didn't want to spend the money. Dorian is saying that Turris never allowed them or offered them the possibility of signing the deal that he signed with Nashville. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but let's concentrate on just Melnyk.
Okay. Melnyk also used a term that said refinancing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the interesting part, because I think Melnyk is maybe not being entirely honest. So bear with me here. If you're refinancing, your lenders usually take an expertise in what the business is that you're refinancing. You don't walk down to your local bank branch if you own an NHL team and say, I need to refinance.
Right.
You don't go to the credit union. You go to an institutional banking that has experts in these kinds of things. Okay, particularly sports franchises.
Oh, you mean like a guy like Steve Muchin? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, well, Boots Del Baggio. So
wait, John Spano. John Spano.
Now we're at ridiculous money talk. Go ahead.
No, they have experts in this stuff, and I'll say this because my own stepfather did a fair amount of work with the Canucks in the pre-Aquilini ownership. It helped them build what is now Rogers Place on the financing as well as some of the purchase stuff. He was a key lawyer involved in that.
Was that the Griffiths owner?
Griffiths with John McCaw. So he did a lot, and he was representing the lender, and which was the Royal Bank of Canada at the time. Mm-hmm. So what happens with a lot of this stuff is lenders want to know, what are your liabilities? Well, why does Melnyk have to tell his GM to ask everyone what their no trade clauses are or everything? It doesn't add up. Melnyk's got a spreadsheet. Not only that, they've got a master one that they have to send to the league anyways. This isn't like, if you need to know where your 10 teams are because the lender asked you for it, you're working with you're probably working with a lender who's way down the list, because just because Erik Karlsson doesn't want to go to Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, and pick your other 7 teams, it doesn't mean that you can just ship him off to get rid of the liability.
Right.
Because that's what they are, right? They may want all the contracts, like, you know, the deal with whoever performs concessions, all those things, ice clearing, snow
so
clearing.
You're also saying that they may say, if you get rid of Karlsson, you're losing money and equity on this franchise.
On your equity, and they're looking at, and I don't know, but the thing is, player costs are kind of fixed in the NHL. You can't go over 73 million or 75 million. You can't go under 58 million or whatever the floor is, and you're in there. And I mean, if you're lending to an NHL team, you probably have some interest in the NHL. Chances are you're going to learn a little bit about it, and you're going to know how the salary cap and expenditures work and the revenue models that teams have. It's a gate-driven league. So it surprises me that he would use the term refinancing. And I have to wonder if it's more a sale thing, because it doesn't add up to me, and that he's been asked about sale. Because if you're going to buy the team, you probably want to buy Erik Karlsson. You probably don't want to lose Erik Karlsson.
Right.
So, you know, that makes more sense to me. But
again, you know, like the Marlins, who lost everybody because they had to. And so, right, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the team that gets rid of Karlsson and you lose a little in the equity, or the team that loses all the contracts so that you could build the equity?
Here's the direct quote here from Melnick. The only thing I can think of is our routine refinancing of our debt involves a financial roadshow, whatever that means. This involves accountants, bankers, and lawyers. I'm not directly involved in this process except for the occasional visit and greetings. Hence, this is where the sale story must have come from. So now this is the thing. If we remember, and a couple years ago, a certain Hockey Buzz Ottawa blogger wrote a story regarding financial difficulty with the Ottawa Senators. That's not a revelation. I mean, it wasn't at that point, but right now it's not a revelation. It's a fact, and this is sort of proof of that. So
really, he's not selling, but he's getting an evaluation.
Right now,
or he's got debt that we don't know about, and he is refinancing. But I just don't I mean, lenders ask for everything. I'm just curious, if he is refinancing, who's the lender? Because they should know this already.
Or Peter, and there's a precedent just recently with Dundon, the new owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. He could be taking on a partner who will be taking on the debt, like Dundon is sort of taking on for Karmanos. And, you know, he may own the majority of the franchise, but that might be what's going on here. Yeah. You know, apparently, he wants to hold on to this team. He wants to see them financially viable. And the question is, though, whether they can be financially viable in a small Canadian market that does not have a monstrous fan base. Remember, it's not a corporate city, but it's a government city with a lot of transient people coming in and out. You know, you've got people from Southern Ontario who represent places around Toronto that are probably Leaf fans. So, you know, it's your fan base is in the surrounding suburbs. Your building is out in the middle of nowhere, and now they're going to rectify that by building a building down in downtown Ottawa. But I mean, it's been there for 25 years, and really, I don't remember it ever. It's been a success on the ice, but it's never been a financial success.
Yeah. Well, there were years that were good. I mean, but sorry, Peter. Looking on the big list, they're 25th in attendance.
Well, yeah, I mean, Russ, last year, remember the open seats during the Rangers season?
Yep. I mean, but that was also due to what they were charging for tickets. It was obscene.
Right. But you know what? In Montreal and in Toronto and in Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary and Winnipeg, if those obscene prices, if they're at the conference final, people will pay them.
Yeah.
and people didn't want to pay them in Ottawa. So that's a reflection of the strength of your fan base. You know, I mean, if you're successful and you're deep in the playoffs, those tickets should be sold. In most markets will be sold, but there it wasn't sold. So
yeah, they're 81.3% at home and 95% on the road because the league average is so high. That's not good.
Yeah. So, you know, really, if Melnick, like, why do you want to own something that you don't really like affording? That's what I don't understand. And what's the feather in your cap to do that? And then also, what is the point?
Wants to get his name on the Stanley Cup, Peter.
Yeah. Well, sure. And then if you
come on, well, sure. I mean, if your name was on the Stanley Cup, how would you feel? You'd feel pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it's still a goofy issue in terms of, well, my kids have the first run of it. You don't even like affording it, Eugene. Are you just going to give all your money to your kids so they can have the same problem? Frankly, you know what? He should, sell it to Quebec City. Like it's not going to hurt
doing that right now.
Yeah.
So.
No.
What's that?
They're not doing.
He's not going to do that right now.
Well,
and that's what he's saying right now.
Right.
Things change.
And I found out something interesting last night. I was at the Puck Talks event up in Toronto and had a really good panel, including James Myrtle and Pierre LeBrun and James Duthie from TSN. And Pierre LeBrun mentioned regarding transfers of franchises and obviously expansion. The expansion figure that came out for Seattle was $650 million. Peter, the transfer of Atlanta to Winnipeg, including the franchise movement fee, was $170 million is what one
total
of the
price
said.
$100 million for the franchise, $70 million transfer fee.
Now the league is going to charge the fee that they're charging for expansion teams. They're going to charge. They're charging $650. Like if Ottawa wanted to move to Quebec City, the league is demanding the expansion fee. There's no more time where you're going to get a discount on an existing team. In fact,
we'll see.
That's what they're saying. At least that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, but we'll see.
Now that might be
we'll see when the rubber hits the road on that one.
Yeah. That might be a preventative measure, Russ, to prevent people from, like Jim Balsillie back in the day, doing an end around and not trying to get an expansion team, but trying to get the Pittsburgh Penguins for pennies on the dollar and move them to Kitchener, Waterloo, or Hamilton.
Right.
Well, how's Gary going to figure that out with when Murray Edwards wants to move Calgary to Houston? Like, you can't have both sides of it.
Yeah, and I'm wary to go into the. I didn't read the article, but I saw the posting from Eric Francis regarding, the Flames are going to be in Houston in 3 years. I mean, honestly, I don't believe that. I think this is purely leverage, but that kind of stuff is. I mean, I think that all this Houston stuff. I mean, I think there's genuine interest in Houston, but I think that's going to be the landing spot for Arizona. I mean, you can't start saying Calgary is going to pull up stakes and move to Texas.
No, you can't. But so does if Houston wants a team and the ownership gentleman now owns the Rockets wants a team, is he going to pay $650 million to get Arizona?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
interesting. The NHL has always been looked at as a greedy group of owners.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been looked that way. And this almost seems like just when they've sort of started to get themselves away from that look, which has taken a long time, because when you basically have a labor issue, you lock everyone out each time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to work with that PR, and then you go back to the trough like this. It's just for a gate-driven league, which has its $300 million a year NBC deal come up after the end of next year.
Yeah. No, I think it was.
You got to be very careful about how you look at these things. And
it was 2022. There was a 10-year deal in 2012. So, but. I think
I don't think it was a 10-year.
I mean, and look, and they're not totally a gate-driven league because they do have that investment in MLB BAM, right? So they have diversified a little bit.
Which leads us into our second story is the fact that, I believe when that deal was made, Russ, the NHL bought into 10% of MLB BAM.
Right.
And now MLB BAM is being sold to Disney,
right,
which is ABC and ESPN. And now Disney is buying Fox regional networks, Fox Sports. They're not selling Fox News. I don't think they're selling the newspapers, but they're selling the 21st Century Fox movies and sports. And that means, John Shannon posted this on Twitter yesterday, that means ESPN is back in the hockey business because it'll be regional, but it'll still be, I'm wondering whether we're going to see an increase in coverage of the NHL now on ESPN because, like on their sports broadcast, because it's negligible. I don't think it's anything. I mean, what do you think?
Well, no, ESPN covers hockey. They just use Wyshynski for it.
Well, no, I'm talking about like on their broadcasts.
Well, no, there's nothing. They have no rights.
Sports Center, you don't see hockey at all.
Yeah. No, they don't. They got rid of their premier hockey guys. Anyone would go on camera and provide content for them, and downgraded and hired someone else.
Yeah. What do you think, Russ? What do you think of this?
I'm not sure what to think. I think it's interesting that they targeted sports because Disney has always had an interest in sports. I mean, they owned the Anaheim Ducks at one time and won a Stanley Cup with them. And I actually know somebody who worked in that organization at the time. And so I did find out that, they were pretty gung-ho for sports. And so I think this is a place that they wanted to be. And I think based on their, already owning ESPN, why not sort of corner the market? Because now, tell me, other than Canada, another entity that's going to come in and really challenge them for, I don't know, for any of their shows that they put on already on ESPN or something else. How are you going to break in anymore?
I would have said before this, I would have said Fox Sports 1. I mean, I believe part of this deal is they just bought Fox Sports 1. So they just bought their competition.
So there's unless you're starting a new channel, Mark Cuban decides, hey, I'm going to start my own sports network, like he did the Access channel, which is a great channel. He did a great job with that, by the way. For music lovers, everybody should watch it. But the point is, if they're doing that for sports, maybe someone like Cuban can do it, but otherwise, who's going to do it? Nobody's going to even invest in it. So I don't know if it's even good for sports because, again, I like competition. Competition gives you better product. The competition now has lessened.
Getting to the games on the ice last night, the Senators, as we were talking about them earlier.
Let's start with that one.
Yeah, sorry. It was the first.
No, that's the one I watched, so it's fine.
It was the first on the board. Senators win 3-2, and I couldn't believe this until I looked it up. This was the first game that the Senators have won with Matt Duchene in the lineup.
Yeah, but he still didn't look great.
Didn't they win in Sweden?
Matt Duchene wasn't there.
I don't know if he was in the lineup at that point.
Oh, maybe he wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think he was.
That was just after the trade, so I don't know. I don't know if he was in the lineup.
He may have been in the second game. He may have made one of the games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just going on a report, but they said that was the first game that Matt Duchene had won. Maybe it was in regulation. It might have been in regulation.
Maybe in regulation. Maybe that's the case. It was an interesting game because there were a couple things already in the chat room. I saw people saying Lundqvist looked a little off. He really wasn't a little off. I mean, it was a 3-1 game. And you're talking about a situation where on one play, Brendan Smith not only lost his stick, he made a bad play on the sidewall, then he loses his stick, and then he can't even push a guy off the puck. And so, there was nothing Lundqvist can do on that. The first goal was a Kevin Hayes blunder where he just basically gave it away. And anytime a guy comes in, I think he came in 1-0 on that one, if I'm remembering. How much of a chance does the goalie stand? So if you want to blame a goal on him, fine. But, I mean, that's not why they lost. They lost this game because Their offensive push stunk, and they could not break Boucher's trap. Plain and simple. They had 3 guys back every minute. Sometimes they had 3 guys back and another guy just above that third guy. So that was a game where the Rangers needed to figure that one out, and they couldn't.
Now, Russ, we talked about the Dallas Stars earlier this week. They looked like, they played a really solid defensive game against the Rangers, and they go in and beat the Islanders 5-2 yesterday, with Tyler Pitlick getting a couple goals. I don't know if it's too early to say that they're getting on track and maybe they're getting what Hitchcock is preaching, but they are starting. They're 18-13-1 now. They are starting to turn it around a little bit. And it's Kerry Lettinen in the last couple games. He played pretty well against the Rangers, and he played again last night. I don't know if I'm assuming Bishop must be sick or hurt, because normally they would split those games.
I'm not sure, but Lettinen's been playing much better lately. He really has. So I'm not sure that right now maybe they figured that this is a good time as any to play Lettinen a little more so we don't overload Bishop. But Dallas is playing good hockey right now. I mean, the last game that they won, it looked like they finally bought into Hitchcock's system, and they were playing a really solid – that was against the Rangers, right? They played a really solid game. I think they're starting to build off that now. And if they continue to play like that, they will be a very dangerous team.
Now, Peter, have you caught the Stars? Have they played the Jets at all?
No,
yet?
well, the Jets have beat the Stars twice, once in Dallas and then once at home. The Stars they're kind of what the Jets were a few years ago, right? They're just not complete. And that sort of like loads of talent. It's just not complete. But, give Ken Hitchcock time, right? Anything can happen after the Christmas break. You never know. Like, a Hitchcock system is a detail-oriented system, right? Mm-hmm. Ken requires a lot of attention to detail in his systems, and it takes time to adjust to. A lot of players don't like it, but when it works, they see it. So give it time. And, there's a lot of talent there, right?
Yeah,
there's a ton of talent.
I think the difference is that Dallas's talent, I think, is more mature than Winnipeg's a couple years ago. I mean, Winnipeg, they've got all these young players and Ehlers and Line and and right now, Dallas's main cogs are Ben and Sagan, and to a lesser extent, Spezza, who's in his 30s. But those guys are veterans now. They're established. I think the focus of Dallas has been that defense, other than Klingberg, and Mathat's been out for a while. I don't know if he's back yet, but they've had to rely more on the young guys like Honka. Klingberg's not exactly an old fogey, but they need those young defensemen in their system to sort of step up, and that's where there's that maturation process that needs to happen.
But you know what? Dallas is only 4 points out of being in the top 3 in the Central. This isn't some calamity.
They're in a good spot. They're starting to click at the right time.
Exactly, and I think if you're a Chicago, you're hating this right now.
Oh yeah,
because if you don't start clicking, you now got 4 teams above you, not including the Wild. And because right now there's 5 teams in the Central and playoff spots in the West.
Yeah.
Right? And if Chicago doesn't figure it out soon, it might be too late.
It might be. I'm not going to go there yet, but I will. But let's have a frank conversation again about the Islanders goaltending. Everybody in the chat room is complaining about Halak for good reason. The goaltending is having them slowly fall out of this playoff race. Right now, they're at 37 points. The Rangers are at 35. Pittsburgh's at 35. Philly's at 31. But Pittsburgh's already shaking it up. Before the Islanders know it, if they don't have strong goaltending, they could be out of this.
Okay, I'll give you.
That's it? No retort. You got to give me a retort.
No. I'm retorting with a question here. I'll give you a
It's a Passover. You don't get questions on a question. No,
I'll give you a list of 3 goaltenders right now, and you tell me if any one of those 3 are an improvement over Halak and Greiss.
All right.
Mrazek, Leonard, and James Reimer.
Reimer, no. Mrazek possibly. Leonard really could be. He could be. He might just need a change of scenery. I've seen Leonard play really well, and the Islanders' defense is a lot better than what Buffalo puts in front of him every night.
Because short of Colorado deciding they're going to trade Varlamov, I don't see anybody who's a quasi number one. I mean, if maybe Philadelphia trades with Elliott, I don't see anybody out there as a quasi number one who's an upgrade over the guys that the Islanders have right now. So I think they're going to have to suffer through
they're going to, because they're going to have to move a salary or send Halak back down. Yeah. And I mean, what do they spend on their two goalies? Isn't it like $8-9 million?
Halak is 6, I think, wasn't he?
He's 6, so it's more than that. So it's like $10 million.
Halak is under 5. Halak is at 4.5.
Yeah.
Bryce is at 3.3 for another 2 years.
So they're around, they're close to $8 million for. You see, this is where you'd rather have one really good goalie for $8 million and not worry about your backup for the 15 games you have to play them. Because now, if I keep rotating in guys and nobody catches fire, what do I do?
Yeah, and they have goaltenders in their organization. I mean, like down the line, Soderstrom is a good prospect. Who's there's another
Sorokin. Ilya Sorokin.
Right, but those guys are years away, so we're not talking about an instant solution. By the time that they're ready to come, John Tavares will be playing his 3rd year in Toronto.
Thomas Boyle goes, bring up Gibson. We've all seen Christopher Gibson.
Oh my God.
He's not good enough to be in the NHL.
Christopher Gibson wasn't good enough to be with the Toronto Marlies. I mean, please. But I mean, but the whole, all I'm saying is that you look at those teams, you look at the goaltenders, the options available, and unless somebody is secretly selling a number one, I don't see a great improvement. Maybe Leonard could get hot, but he's hot and cold. I've seen him too long in Buffalo. He'll play 3 games where he looks like a world beater, and then he is a sieve. And then those goaltenders drive fan bases crazy.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and this is, again, with all the other stuff going on with the Islanders, it would be nice for them to sort of stay in the race, but they've got to get some sort of goaltending. They really do. Otherwise, they're going to have to upgrade their defense. That's the easiest way to try and fix this problem, honestly.
Now, after a hot start, the Detroit Red Wings have really cooled off. They lose 3-2 to the Boston Bruins, who have won 4 of their last 5. Brad Marchand, I believe, had the overtime goal. I mean, Russ, this is what I expected out of Detroit. 11-13-7 after 31 games, 29 points. They're only 2 points ahead of Ottawa and 7 points ahead of Buffalo, but they're down at the bottom of the Eastern Conference and the Atlantic Division, and they're already 6 points behind the last wild card spot. They're going down for the deep 6.
They're going down for the deep 6. Boy, I don't know. It's a tough spot.
Well, and Peter, at the beginning of the season, I looked at this team and I'm like, okay, you're not gonna move Zetterberg because he's probably gonna retire. I think he came out and said he was gonna retire after next season when the contract just happens to go down to like $1 million a year.
Yeah.
But Nyquist, Abdelkader, Franz Nielsen, who they just signed last season. There are a number of guys who've been there for a number of years who really aren't doing a lot. I thought that the direction would be the rebuild, but they're in the brand new building, and I guess they felt that they had to at least try to be competitive. But I've seen games from like Buffalo playing there and Toronto playing there. The building is half empty because the team is not good.
Yeah.
But remember, I found this out too because it looked half empty against the Jets. And apparently, there were 16,000 people there, but there's bars that go all the way around.
That's right. They probably were in the bars.
It's a bit of a deceiving thing. Detroit, when you've had that much success for that long, you probably build in a lot of false positives about your organization and your understanding and how you've done things. And Detroit probably needed to have that proverbial bad idea guy come in once the Lidstrom was done, right? Mm-hmm. And say, we basically lost a cornerstone top 5 all-time defenseman from this franchise. because remember, Lidstrom made Ian White look good. That okay? That's how good Lidstrom was.
Leaf fans will get that one.
Yeah, exactly. So will Flames fans.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
And the point is, when those things happen, that is such a shockwave through an organization, right? Like, not just off the ice, but through everything. Like, and you've got to manage that inevitable change that comes with it better. Then Datsuk goes back to the KHL. Like, it's death by 1,000 cuts, as Charlie would say, right?
Yeah.
And they're just dying because they're not replenishing what they should have started replenishing a long time ago, and make those hard business decisions to say, we actually have to address this pipeline now, not once it's dead in the front, right? Like,
right. Here's the thing. I would say you've got Cronwall, who literally says he's playing on one leg.
Mm-hmm.
With one more year, he's on, and this year is the first year he's got a modified no trade, so he has to give a list of 10 teams.
Right.
If Vegas is one of those teams, I'm working out a deal with Vegas where I get them to eat my money. I'm probably going to trade him a top draft pick, and I want a player in return that I can put in my lineup, because that would at least start helping them in the process of rebuilding their defense to the point where, because a guy like Cronwall, like next year at the age of 37, you can't have him in the lineup with one leg in this league and stay competitive. And they're not gonna have a chance to bottom out completely, Detroit. They're not.
It could be also be Russ. It could be a Vinny Lecavalier situation where a team who's in contention might want that veteran guy, sort of like Chemo Timonen go to the Blackhawks, but
not with another year left. I don't know.
But I'm saying it could be the Lecavalier situation. Basically, we'll trade for you, but you got to promise you're going to retire.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But he's 36. It'll count against the cap. They're not doing that either.
Well, no, the contract was signed before 35.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a 35 and over deal.
Right,
so if he retires, it's
so I mean, but to me, that's the move you have to make. Otherwise, yeah, they're in deep doo doo, and it's a shame. I mean, they were playing well. Boston is doing what I thought Boston would do, and that's why I thought that there may not be 5 teams from the Metro, because I thought Boston would fight for the wild card. But the Atlantic is so bad; they've moved right into the Atlantic. And
well, just back to Detroit for 1 second. Them collapsing, I think, wipes any qualms away about them putting Mike Green on the trade market before the deadline. Mike Green might be the most attractive free agent defenseman out there as a rental. I don't know if I would want to sign him long term. You know, I don't think anybody's going to sign him to the type of deal that Detroit did previous to this. It was 3 years, $18 million, $6 million per. There have been some rumors, and I hope that they're wrong, because there have been rumors about the Leafs being interested in Mike Green. They already have Jake Gardner, so they already have one irresponsible defensive defenseman. You don't need two.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, though, with getting back to Boston. We know that Bolesky was on waivers. You knew I hated that deal. That was a guy who clearly was off a career year. He's done almost nothing for Boston, but now they've drafted well enough that, you know what, guys are playing so they could afford to just waive them.
Here, right. I was going to mention this, but now that you mentioned it, I'll include this. So he's got 2 more years at $3.8 million. His first year, he scored 15 goals. Last year in 49 games, he scored 3 goals and 5 assists. This year, 14 games, 0 points. And he's locked up for 2. This is buyout territory. This is
a bad contract. And everybody goes, you know, I remember, and this is the thing, and Peter will back me on this. Everybody always gets on me when I say, you know, this is a bad contract. And they're like, well, it's not that much money. You know, it's not that big a deal. But it is that big a deal when all of a sudden, whatever the amount of money is, even if it's as little as $2.5 million, doesn't produce at all. Yeah. Then it becomes a big deal.
Yeah. This is, I mean, I think this is the core. I'm not going to go on a long narrative about this, but I think this is the core of what some of our analytics folks try to say. And it gets lost in the noise of, you tell us how the game should be played. And a lot of them are saying, no, we're telling you that you don't sign guys like Bolesky to these kinds of contracts. That's where the efficiencies come in, right? And that's what I think a lot of teams and GMs need is that person to say, this is a bad move to make. It's not that you shouldn't sign him, but don't sign him at this value, at this length.
Well,
just on that note, and I just put a tweet out, was Bolesky a Chiarelli contract?
Yes, I believe he was.
I think so.
There's a lot of ugly skeletons in Chiarelli's closet right now. Like, they're all starting to come out.
Yeah, and the thing was that people remember he had that big year, and people were saying, "Oh, he's going to get 5 years, $5 million per," and people were patting them on the back that they got him only at 3.8.
Yeah.
Well, great, he's at 3.8, but he's got no goals this year. So how does that taste for 3.8 million per?
Yeah.
The last game of the 4 from last night, the Predators beat the Vancouver Canucks, Russ, 7-1.
I like that, Mike. That's a good way to say that.
PK Subban apparently getting revenge on the Canucks for trading his baby brother Jordan, scores a couple goals, one of them being from center ice. And so that, Peter, that always brings back memories to me of the 1990 playoffs between the St. Louis Blues and the Maple Leafs when Alan Bester let in a goal from almost center ice in overtime. Sergio Momesso scored an overtime playoff goal against Bester from just outside the blue line.
As a Canucks fan, that brings back Dangerous Dan Cloutier.
Oh yeah,
and Nick Lidstrom. When the Canucks were up 2-0 with 2 road wins in that series.
Yes.
When Yzerman was playing on half a leg.
And Naslund and Bertuzzi were like incredible.
Just starting to light it up. That was the first year in the last half of that season that they came out and were like, okay.
Yeah.
And Cloutier let that goal and he never recovered.
And it was like the air. There was a balloon.
And I like Cloutier too. He when he first came in the league, he was a good player. But yeah,
you know what? And I remember when they got him, when they traded for him, because he was from the Rangers. I think they got him from the Rangers, if I'm not correct. Like, he was a really popular goalie.
Well, he was a good fighter too.
Yeah, I still love when he challenged the Islander bench. That was the best.
It was great.
He's actually working for.
But he was a good goalie. Actually, on the early going there, he had some really great years. He did.
Yeah.
There was something else though. The worst goal that I ever saw, pretty much given up, was Antero Niittymaki looking up at the scoreboard, and all of a sudden the goal goes in.
Oh God!
I was at that game. That was bad, man.
Oh.
And I think that was around center ice, maybe even beyond that. I can't remember exactly.
I have to. Yeah, it's ironic. The worst goal that I've ever seen. It wasn't an NHL game, but you'll know this one, Russ, because I talked about it before. The Calder Cup Final 2012 between Norfolk and the Toronto Marlies. Norfolk was the Tampa Bay minor league team, so you had Tyler Johnson and Corey Conacher and a lot of the guys that are on the Lightning right now. And Mike Koska in triple overtime shoots it from center it was a dump in along the glass, and he hits the stanchion as Ben Scrivens is going behind the net. It hits the stanchion and goes in the net, and they win the game on a dump in. It was I've never, it was like the entire, like 10,000 or 9,000 people in that building. It was just an oh crap type of thing. It was unbelievable how that happened. Anyway, now interesting list of games tonight. We won't go in detail about this, but the one that I think is going to attract the most attention is the Pittsburgh and Vegas. I believe that one is. I'm doing an ec here. I'm pulling up the schedule here. I believe where is it? Yeah, I think sorry about that. Yep, Pittsburgh and Vegas on NHL Network, 10 o'clock tonight. It's Marc-Andre Fleury's first game against his former team. It'll be Murray and Fleury in goal. And an interesting thing, Russ, it was a report today, I think it was Pierre LeBrun actually, who reported that Pittsburgh promised Vegas in January, before the offseason, before the expansion draft, they promised them a 2020 second round pick to lock in that they were going to take Fleury. So all the rumor stuff, even before the deadline, like he wasn't going to be, there was no chance he was going to be traded because he was already guaranteed to be the waiver, to be the expansion pickup for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I still think Ryan Reeves will probably take a run at Fleury. Like, it's just, this is what always happens, and then there'll be like conflict everywhere. Like, I could see it.
Come on, you don't think that?
I do think that. Tell me it's out of line, Peter. Tell me it can never happen.
It can never happen.
All right.
Yeah. No.
Just because you brought up Ryan Reeves, a little funny. I can't really show it because it won't show up if I put my phone here. But Ryan Reeves' brother lives in Winnipeg, and he's an ex-CFL player.
Willard Reeves, right?
Jordan Reeves.
Jordan Reeves.
So he was at a high school. This has happened last week, where he went to he played basketball. He's a tall guy. I see him at the gym a lot. He's a physical specimen. He went to go dunk over a kid in this thing in front of a whole high school thing, put his knee right in the kid's face, knocked him over. It's the most cerebral thing you've ever seen. And it was all over social media. I felt really bad for the guy, but there you go.
Yeah.
Go support your brother.
So there are 12 games on the schedule tonight. Washington, Boston, Buffalo, Philly, Islanders, and Columbus. That's an interesting Metro Division matchup. Jersey and Montreal, Anaheim and St. Louis. The Leafs visiting Minnesota, and the only reason I stop on that one is Austin Matthews still day-to-day, still no explanation, more detailed explanation of what's going on. Everybody thinks it's a concussion. Devin Dubnyk, Russ, out week to week with a lower body injury.
This hurts my fantasy team, but I feel bad. This hurts. This hurts Minnesota's chances.
Well, the time to pick up Alex Stalock, because Alex Stalock is probably their number one goalie, right? I would think he is. Yeah,
this is going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah, I mean, they were already behind the 8 ball losing Parise. Now, if it's, as they say, week to week, meaning 3-4 weeks. Yeah, if he's out that long, that's not a promising sign for the Minnesota Wild. Peter, Chicago at Winnipeg tonight. Taves and Kane are still great, but the support staff, other than Brandon Saad, there are a couple good. DeBrincat is having a nice rookie season, but I don't think now we're almost halfway through the season now, and you see that there's not enough support, especially on defense, for the Blackhawks. And I don't know, things could change in the second half. Corey Crawford could get hot, but I don't know whether that team can pull it out and be competitive as they were the last few years.
Crawford's still a great goalie. There's no question. He's the backbone of that team after that depleted defense. These teams sort of, they seem to get up for each other. There's a little bit of, Taze comes home to Winnipeg. Well, you see a lot of Blackhawks jerseys in the stands. And there's some neat little rivalry things in there that seem to come out. But I often wonder, and Stan Bowman, look, we all know, like, there's no guessing. He has doubled and tripled down on his core four, right?
Yep.
Keith, Seabrook, Kane, and Taze. They brought Brandon Saad back, but you have to wonder, would he like a do-over on that deal? Do you think?
No, for one.
No, he had to. He was financially forced.
Yeah, for one reason, Peter, because Panarin was never going to re-sign with them after the 2-year.
I mean, if money wasn't an object, of course they would want to do over.
Yeah, well, but he's managed to deal with the money card before, but he's doubled down on his core, tripled down, and he's paying the price for it now.
It's hurt him,
and it always catches up, and
where I think it's catching up the most is that Kane and Taves are still great. Keith is still really good. Seabrook is. I believe he has another 3 or 4 years on that contract.
It's longer than that, I think.
Yeah, it's I'll pull it up here, but yeah, it's not a good. Yeah, here we go.
And look,
Seabrook's got a lot.
Sorry,
6 more years.
6 more years at 6.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an albatross.
That's retirement money right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the sad thing about Chicago is they've got nothing coming off the books of significance either.
Yeah, luckily they're able to keep their offense kind of cheap now because guys like Schmaltz and Hartman and DeBrincat, and Hayden, they're in a good spot that way. So they might be able to balance it for another year or two. But again, they're a deadline team. If they don't get a trade on defense, they could be dead.
Yeah.
Peter, is there the same reaction in Winnipeg Taves, as it is in Toronto with McDavid? There's always the, will the hometown boy ever come back and play for the hometown team type of thing?
There are people who would welcome, fans from a fan base, welcome Jonathan Toews here with open arms. And they probably wouldn't even care what it cost to get him. And it would be the dumbest move the Jets could make. Like, you love the guy. He's a hero. He's got a lake named after him. When he's home, he's hugely involved in the community. He donated $1 million to his home community club. Like, I mean, he's an impressive guy. He spends his summers out at Lake of the Woods. And he's super popular out there, does tons of things with kids around the lake. I mean, look, love the guy for who he is. You just don't need to love him as a Jet. And there's no hoping. Like, that hope, once he signed that deal, that hope went right out the window.
Right. Just like McDavid with the $100 million. He's never playing for Toronto. Forget it. The other games for tonight: Florida at Colorado, San Jose at Calgary, Nashville and Edmonton. Nashville after 7 goals against the Canucks, they go to play the Oilers. Now the Oilers, they did score 7 against Columbus, so maybe they started to play a little better recently, but that's a dangerous one for the Oilers. Tampa at Arizona.
We'll see what Torts says after the game.
Well, he's not coaching either one of them, Russ.
Oh, I thought you said it was Columbus, Edmonton. Who did you say it was?
No, Nashville, Edmonton.
Oh, Nashville. Sorry.
Tampa at Arizona. What will Rick Tocchet say after that one? And as we talked about it, Pittsburgh and Vegas. Do we have any questions from the chat?
Whoa. There's an important game. Philly Buffalo is the road to the Winter Classic game. Like, stuff happened. Whoa, hold on. For one thing, every viewer should know I've written a book on the Winter Classic, and you go to Amazon.com and buy it. It's really good. And if you want to know about, so this year's the 10th version, you want to know what happened from like 1 through, we probably covered through 6, then you'll know. But here's the thing. If you've ever watched the Road to the Winter Classic, usually the first one's kind of slow. Stuff happens in these games. Mm-hmm. Players know the cameras are there. Mm-hmm. They get aggravated that the cameras are in the locker room. The locker rooms, the scrums get a lot smaller. They're bigger, but they feel smaller because of the cameras. And I'm telling you, on the ice, Peter, have you never watched those things where we've seen things happen with teams because they sort of know they're on the big screen now, and so I wouldn't be shocked if is Eichel going to explode for 3 goals? Like, players rise to the occasion, players start fights. Like, we've seen a lot of different things. So
what I remember is Sidney Crosby telling Dion Phaneuf that Nazem Kadri was like a little weasel, or I can't remember the actual phrase, but it was like, because Kadri was doing what Kadri does. He gets underneath the skin of somebody.
And then I forget now, during Rangers Flyers, somebody, it was Sestito. I think it was Boyle saying to Sestito that it go back to fantasy camp or something. Was that the quote? It was something like that.
It was. I remember one exchange between benches where there was like somebody saying, go back to the AHL, and he says, I played more NHL games than you have, or something like that. I mean, I can't remember.
It was something like that. It was funny. All right, so here's a big story. Okay, so tonight for some people, tomorrow for a lot of others, Star Wars opens up, right?
Here we go.
The new movie. But here's the thing. So I've got odds of who dies in this movie. So we need to go through the odds and see if you had $100, who would you put it down on?
Okay, give it the odds.
All right. So Finn is plus 6,000. Poe Dameron is plus 6,000. Ray is plus 5,000. Chewbacca is plus 5,000. R2-D2 is plus 5,000. C-3PO is plus 5,000. Admiral Akbar is plus 4,000. Supreme Leader Snoke is plus 3,000. Kylo Ren is plus 2,000. Captain Phasma is plus 1,000. General Hux is plus 400. Maz Kanata is plus 200. And Luke Skywalker is the favorite, plus 150.
They don't mention Princess Leia?
I was going to say Princess Leia was who I'd put my money down on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, they don't have Princess Leia in this.
Yeah. To me, I mean, obviously, because
this is for The Last Jedi, yeah. This was put out over the summer and then updated. But yeah, they don't have Princess Leia stats.
Yeah, that's why I bet my $100 on, because obviously she, Carrie Fisher.
No, but you know what? There's a great thinking that it didn't happen, Mike. And so my money is on Luke Skywalker. To me, he is a lock.
Well, the funny thing is, and we won't know until the movie's, people have actually seen the movie, but there is speculation that Luke is, because of like the posters and his positioning on the posters, that they think he's going over to the dark side.
No, I think Luke is done. I think it's over for him. I'll tell you that if C-3PO dies, I'll be sad, and if Chewbacca dies, like, that would be very sad. Like, that's I can't. Luke, I'm expecting, right? So it's not that big a deal for me, even though it's probably heresy to say. I would be more upset if C-3PO or Chewbacca died.
I can't see them kill Han Solo in the first movie and then kill Luke in the second one.
I can. See, that's the thing. You got to move on.
Yeah. The sooner they sort of move on to the next generation of characters they're going to develop and the storylines, the sooner you can let go. Like, I mean, of the, like, for instance, I thought Rogue One last year was far more interesting than The Force Awakens.
It was interesting
because there was none of the old characters. It was just,
you know what, the story was probably better, but I don't think it was more interesting. But I think the story was better. I'll give you that.
Well, you knew
what was going to happen in the other one,
right? You
were
knew,
just doing it differently.
You knew where the story was going to go because
you knew the end point,
right?
But not the way they did it, though, which was fantastic.
See, Brandon the problem thinks Luke is a goner.
Yeah, the problem with The Force Awakens was it was basically a copy of the first Star Wars, A New Hope. Like, it was. I mean,
well, of course. I mean, this one's going to be a lot like Jedi was too, the original. So
with Han Solo being Obi-Wan is what you're saying. They kill him at the end. Yeah. So I guess.
See, I think the thing is what gets me mad in the Star Wars universe is, like, everybody had this backlash for Jar Jar Binks, but now there seems to be this hate for Yoda, and I love Yoda. Yoda's awesome, and if you hate Yoda, then you might as well hate me.
Yeah, if you hate Yoda, you hate Christmas, you hate the Dalai Lama, you hate the Pope, you hate whatever your spiritual leader is.
You hate the Muppets, you hate Kermit the Frog. Yeah.
Mad Yoda fighting was the greatest thing ever on film. That was awesome.
Okay, were there any hockey questions in the chat, or?
Oh, hockey? Are we still talking hockey? Hold on. Any hockey questions so far? No.
I guess not. Okay, well, we'll take some questions tomorrow from the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you,
Thanks,
Russ.
guys. Peter. Always a pleasure.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with us. Oh yeah, I can't do that.
I can't do the Vulcan. I was trying to do the Vulcan.
I can do the Vulcan thing. I used to be.
I can't get my pinky and the fourth finger together. There you go. Wow.
There.
For Peter Tessier, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.